Good evening. Hi, Connie. This is
Hello.
Connie Jones, therapist,
Hi.
life and business coach,
Yes.
and we're here again to discuss your blog post this
My
week,
blog.
which is
Yes.
about.
The how to stop playing small in your life. The 10 things that you can do to stop playing so small in your life.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, since you're a coach,
Mhm.
and we usually go through and talk about the points of
Yes.
your blog post, um, I'm going to switch it up on you tonight,
Okay.
and so let's talk about. How would you be able to detect? What are the symptoms that somebody's playing small in their life?
Okay. Well, usually if someone's playing small, what's evident is their fear and their shame is controlling them. And so we play small by shrinking into our lives or kind of shrinking in our lives and accepting something that we really don't want. I like the word counterfeit. So we accept counterfeit in our lives. So what we really want is this, but we settle for this because we believe that that's all is available to us. That we can't have what we really want and what we really need because God is not for us, or we have done something to mess it up, or we're not valuable and worthy enough, or no one will, we're not lovable enough, or there's some other lie that we believe about ourselves or about God that keeps us from that thing that we really want being available to us.
Okay. So it's settling for
So
less and
it's
thinking
it's settling for
you
less.
can't achieve more.
And so besides fear and shame, I guess other things, I see people who are spending their time. This is another um, evident place of someone who's playing small in their life, where they spend their time reacting to things in their life, doing things that are important to other people but not necessarily important to them. A lot of people pleasing.
Okay.
They are not in control of their schedule. They really don't feel like they don't own their life because they have handed their power away. Maybe they don't set boundaries very well. They're not scheduling things into their calendar that are most important to them. They're doing what they have to do, or they feel like they have to do, in order to get that little bit that may be available to them that they have to get for themselves. And
Okay.
it's a lot of striving, a lot of struggle, um, and not a fun way to live.
So there is an alternative to that.
There is an alternative.
Instead of
Yes.
struggling and
Yes.
fighting for it.
Absolutely,
So,
and that is playing big. And I do a lot of, mindfulness and some somatic work um, and visualization. And so it literally is imagining and learning to visualize and own and open up to your space, and learning how to own the space that you live in every day, and own who you are, and accept that part of you, or that whole of you, and accept and love yourself, and just know with confidence that when you are in that place where you were born to God gave you that space in the world, and that's your sacred space. And when we live in our space, and when we own it, and we're aligned with the essence of who we are and He created us to be, then everything lines up. Everything in the universe that God created supports us. And when we're not in that space, because of believing a lie or settling for something that is not um, what we really want or what God intended for us, then we are playing small, and then we feel frustrated because the things that God intended for us don't look like they're available.
right. So
So
it seems like fear would enter into that quite a bit.
absolutely, fear. I always say, fear and shame are the two big ones. Fear actually holds the lie in place. So um, evil uses fear in an incredibly deceptive way, and
Okay.
we don't understand quite how we're being bullied by fear at all. in pretty much any moment of the day that we allow it to happen. Whatever lie we believe about ourselves, for instance, if I am me, it's going to be too much. Or if I let people really see who I am, I'm going to, they're going to reject me. Or if I try that, I'm going to fail. Or I'm going to do something to mess it up. Those are all lies. We all have different lies that we believe about ourselves. And so fear serves to hold that lie in place. The lie comes from shame. The lie comes from the shame that we were told. I told you, I guess, or I was talking a couple of weeks ago about we're born into a world of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're born into that world of pain, we take on that pain, and we're told things about ourselves that create shame in us, and that we're told, well, you're not enough, or you're too much, or you're not worthy, or you're not valuable, or and so you're not lovable enough. So you have to go get for yourself, try to earn your worthiness. And so the shame is there in us, and we live according to that, and the lies are there, and they're reinforced by other events that happen to us that wound that same place in us and that reinforce that lie. And then fear bullies us and holds that lie in place. Things keep happening day after day after day that cause us to be afraid of ever feeling that kind of pain again, or ever feeling that kind of shame again. And when we live in that place, we literally, our bodies, if you study somatics and energy, our bodies actually shrink in reaction to that. Our energy shrinks. Our energy starts moving in a different direction. It goes horizontal in flow rather than vertical in flow. And our bodies get smaller. We tighten everything in us, and our world becomes smaller, and we play small. We shrink, and we settle
Literally,
for less than who we are.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it's a figure of speech, but it's a
Right.
literal thing that happens. Yes.
Well, tell me, as far as about shame. Now, shame is not embarrassment.
No.
But shame is not, necessarily a conviction either. What's the difference between shame and conviction?
Conviction is based on truth. Shame is based on a lie. So conviction is our conscience. We have been confronted with a truth, and I believe, it's just my belief, that we have truth in the heart of us. That's our spirit. That's our, and if we've been a Christian, we're, accepted Christ, we have the Holy Spirit in us. And so, but whatever that, whatever the center of us is, the peaceful, we have a wise self in us. And that when we encounter truth in the depths of us, in our whole centered place, and I call it, and from my standpoint, it's the Holy Spirit, and our God speaking, to my heart, because He's in us. We're divinely inspired beings, and we have that Spirit in us. When we encounter truth, our body knows it, and it's a safe, centering conviction. And it's a whole different, we can rise in that. There may be some shame associated with it, or blame, or guilt associated with it. But if we are dealing in truth, we can stay in the present, and we can not shrink in that, and then we can live in the truth and live according to the truth and act on the truth. But when we're dealing with a lie, it goes immediately to shame, because that lie got there because it was associated with pain and shame. And so early on, the pain and the shame we know that our bodies hold that.
Mhm.
We know that all too well, and it has actually it's habituated so much, and we know it so well that it actually we go into fight or flight.
Mm.
When we experience shame, our bodies go into fight or flight immediately, and our system does, and we go into survival.
Okay.
And so that's where this process takes us. Is we we're trying to survive in our shame and in our pain and in our fear.
Right.
But how differently do we show up in our lives when we're surviving and we feel like we don't have power and we don't have say and we don't have a choice and we
Mhm.
don't have anything that's working for us? How differently does life look when we're living that way versus when we're living out of the place of power, out of the place of truth, out of the place of knowing who we are and walking in our identity and
Right.
knowing that we're supported in the in the universe, in the world that we live in. And in that place is where it's such a different existence because we open ourselves to fullness. We open
Mhm.
ourselves to receive what God has intended for us.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, that's great. So,
Yeah.
and those of you watching for the first time, the blog post that we're referring to is on ConnieJonesCoaching.com. It's for this week, and so you can obviously you'll want to go there and read that to get the main points. But how does someone know the difference between so it's like we have our like a truth self or a truth self that knows the truth
Yes.
and knows how does someone know that, or how do you bring someone to know the difference between conviction and shame? What does that
How do you
feel
actually
like?
get to that
Yeah.
place where you feel it and you know it?
Right, we
That
know the
knowing.
difference.
And that is that's actually, and I do a lot of that work, and I love that work. And it's actually an experiencing, and it takes practice. It takes discipline.
Mhm.
It is it's allowing yourself to be quiet and still long enough that all of the other voices, all of the other distractions, all of the counterfeit, and if we're in addiction, which I've struggled with in my life, if we're in addiction, oftentimes we have to go through the withdrawal process, and we can't even, that takes days or months or before all of that stuff is stripped away, that is counterfeit, that we can't even see,
Mhm.
and get still and quiet enough that we can tap into the still small voice, into
Right.
the peace, into that place of knowing, into that wise inner self. Um, and it's kind of like feeling at home.
Mhm.
It's feeling at home in your body, a comfortable space. It's um, it takes practice to get there, but when you get there, you know. You
Okay.
just know. And sometimes, there's just peace, and sometimes you hear things, and, sometimes, you see a vision or a picture of something, and that's the space where God is, and that's where truth hits.
Okay.
And when you know that, there's no doubt.
Right.
And so it's getting people to, sometimes it's just walking that out with people and teaching them how to do that. And sometimes I start with my clients with, all right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to sit for 5 minutes with, if they're really in a lot of distraction and they're, just busy and swirling and can't stop their minds. Oftentimes we start with 5 minutes.
Mhm.
And I want you to, we may play music, or we try to, wherever you feel the most peaceful. For me, it's out in nature.
Mhm.
So I can connect so much easier if I'm out and close my eyes and hear the sounds. And so it's different for everybody. We find where your starting point is,
Mhm.
and you start with 5 minutes. And if you have to get your journal there and you start writing everything until you get to the end of whatever's in your brain until it finally stops, then
Mhm.
that's okay. And then we work up to and then we do visualization in my office, and I walk through that with them so that, it's a training of the body like any other training, to learn to get to that place where it's all stripped away
Right.
and the true self is. It's another level of consciousness.
Well, it would seem to me that someone who was overcome, as you say, with shame, would definitely be someone who was focused on memories, either things that occurred to them or happened to them or
Yeah.
that they did. So that seems like a lot like they would be living in the past.
Absolutely. And oftentimes we're living in the past and we don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes those memories that we have, so-called memories, are locked in our body in a stuck state of energy that's stuck, and we don't even know that the story is going on. Sometimes we're aware that there's a memory there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we just feel anxiety in certain situations where that pain or that memory is, or those same kinds of thoughts or feelings are triggered. And so that's why it's so powerful, is that our body actually knows it before our brain even does.
Mm-hmm.
So when a situation is very similar to something we experienced that was painful, then we're reliving that over and over and over, and sometimes not even aware that we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're reacting in fight or flight to this thing that is not going on right now, but has very much become our reality. And
Right.
I say a lot of times not a lot of times, everybody establishes a filter
Mm-hmm.
from which we see the world. And so our filter, our perspective, I've had people say to me before, well, that's just not true. Or that's just not, well, that's not what I said, or that's not what I meant, or that's not what, and oftentimes we don't believe if we perceive that to be reality
Mm-hmm.
out of our filter, then we're not gonna, that's our truth. That is our reality. And so it doesn't matter what someone says or what someone does or what they meant or they intended, that's the way we're going to experience it. And that, you can imagine how that complicates and destroys relationships, because whatever filter we are responding out of in our lives is how we're going to perceive other people,
Mm-hmm.
and how we're going to be able to function in our relationships. And so shame is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Shame destroys relationships. It is, in my opinion, the most destructive force.
Because they're just not living in reality.
Not living in reality. You
So-
can't. It's like, I tell my clients, okay, I had a marital couple the other day that came in, and one of them said something to trigger the other one, and it triggered his pain, and he didn't realize it. And I watched, because I can see from
Mm-hmm.
outside of it. I watched him, and I said, I said, you just crawled down in your dark hole.
Mm-hmm.
What caused you to create? What did you hear her say that felt so unsafe or so shaming or so disrespecting that you literally, like, I watched his whole spirit. It was like he just crawled into a hole.
Mm.
And he wasn't present anymore. I mean, he was sitting on the couch and he was aware and he was talking and he was conscious, but he was not there.
Right.
And his whole body posture changed, and he was responding out of his shame. And when we do that,
So like a defeated.
it's defeated.
Kind of.
We can't even, we protect,
Mm-hmm.
and we shut down. We don't stay vulnerable, and we perceive something that is not real.
Mm-hmm.
And then no one can get to us. It feels very safe for us to
Yeah.
be in the hole, but it's usually a pretty dark hole.
Hmm.
And and then, we want someone to come down in there and get us out and make us feel better and soothe our shame and our pain, but we don't even realize that we've gone down in the hole, and our partner or whoever we're interacting with
Mhm.
sure doesn't realize that we're down in the hole and wouldn't know how to get us out if we needed them to. And so that happens constantly in the most intimate of relationships, because the people that you're most intimate with are the people that you give the most power to. They have the most power to be able to shame and hurt you.
Oh. Okay.
And so, because you expose the most vulnerable parts of
Right.
yourself to them, and so therefore they have access to your pain, to your shame, and don't intend to do that, but that's what happens over and over and over. So that's why it's so important to not live out of that, and to recognize, none of us are gonna not be without shame or not without fear. But what is important is to realize it and be aware of it, and then know what is triggering it, so that we can address it in those moments and know, oh my gosh, I just went in my hole, or I don't feel safe right now, or I just feel really small right now, and I don't know how to come back out of this place. And then to learn what to do to maintain your space and to own who you are and not fall into that place
Right.
and stay, and then isolate yourself and hide and disconnect,
Right.
which is what evil wants us to do.
Well, watching someone come out of that must be pretty rewarding
Oh my gosh, yes.
to see.
It is, and it sometimes it's painful.
Mhm.
If it's very triggering, sometimes it's really really painful. But that's the beauty of it, is because we're so afraid of our pain. But that's another one of those lies, that pain is going to overwhelm me, when actually pain is the pathway to peace. If we will just allow our pain if we'll just allow it to kind of wave over us and come out, it's a releasing that our body needs to be able to resolve that moment of pain, of hurt, and it's out, and then it's resolved, and we can move forward.
Seems
And
like
then
that would cause a lot of physical problems as well.
it well it
So.
it can, and it causes physical problems when the pain stays in our bodies, and it's our bodies will tell us what's wrong. We
Mhm.
will know, our bodies will get sick when our hearts are sick,
Right.
when we're believing lies, when our thoughts are sick, our bodies get sick, because it's the reinforcement of shame and pain, and it's a toxic. So
Certainly would be.
that will make us small in another whole,
Right.
another whole light. So that's another way. That's a good point. That sometimes shame and pain keeps us makes us so small that it incapacitates us.
Right. Physical shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you know, I'm sure there are a lot of people listening that are relating to that and feeling and feeling that, and you certainly have outlined some steps on getting free
Mm-hmm.
from that, and also, but Connie's practice is in Peachtree City,
Yes.
but that doesn't mean if you are in Alaska somewhere that you have to hop on a plane and come down, because she does a lot of counseling simply over the phone
Mm-hmm.
or over Skype,
Mm-hmm.
video conferencing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel like, wow, this is really something that I could use, you have your packages on
Yeah.
your website
I do.
that we can refer people to. And
Yes.
I just think that would, give you opportunity to
Yes.
see some people break out of
Oh,
this, and beyond
absolutely.
that.
And that's why
So.
you use the word counseling, and I am a licensed therapist, and love that. It's a calling on my life. It's a gift, and I can't not do it because it's who I am. But I love the counseling coaching mix, and I do a lot of life coaching and business coaching, and the reason I like to do that so much, and not just I felt like the counseling didn't represent me
Mhm.
as well, as it wasn't. It was limiting from the standpoint of I love helping people heal and get to the bottom of what's triggering them and the bottom of their pain, and to get to the core of the lie and shift that and change that and heal that. But I love the coaching because it helps people move forward. You're not just stuck in your, and not that counselors do that, I don't mean that, but that's kind of the perception.
Right.
So, I love helping people move forward in their life and not just get out of the pain to survive, but really take the next step to thrive.
Right.
And
in their careers.
Exactly.
And in their lives.
In their lives and their careers. Learn how to, how do I own my space? How do I take back my life? How do I own my power? What do I want to do? What does that look like if I live the life that I want to be living? The life that I love, rather than the life that I have to accept because this is the one I have, or these are the options that are available to me.
Right.
And so that's the work that I love, is going from all the way down in anything that needs to be addressed in the most painful places in our hearts, and moving all the way into creating the life that people really want to be living, and the business that they want to be working in, or the business that they want to be owning, or the expression of their soul on this on this earth, and that's what I love.
Well, having living small in your personal life and your emotional life, and getting past that to the point where you, because you may have some residual issues, or things may come back when you start to move out into your business and career and start living large.
Oh my gosh.
Living larger, and need some help getting that confidence and being who you are and fulfilling your purpose.
Absolutely, and that's another great point. And actually, it's funny. We had a staff meeting today with the other 3 therapists that are.
Are they living large?
They are living large.
Okay.
They are amazing people with incredible hearts and just very self-aware. And so, over the last couple months, we've expanded. It was just me and the one other therapist, Kimberly Maple, and who is just golden. I love her. But she and I were practicing together. But when we've taken on so much more, and we've expanded and gotten a new office, and and I'm expanding the coaching and speaking more and teaching more, and writing and doing video, and it's there's more exposure, and the larger you do live, the more you come in contact with all of those things that you have to deal with inside of yourself that are associated with your shame and your pain and your fear. And I was just telling the therapist today in our staff meeting, I didn't realize that some of that old stuff that I thought was, all resolved, all good, I've had to deal with lately, because I'm in a bigger space, and I'm in a larger platform, and I'm more responsible for more people, and got more exposure, and our territory is larger, and
literally,
yes, it is, and it's
a lot more to vacuum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. Yes, if anybody's wants to come vacuum an office,
We'll give you the address.
yes, exactly. Come along anytime you'd like. But no, I still call my mom and say, "Mom, would you come?" No, teasing. But anyway, it really is. It's a beautiful thing to grow. But it's a scary thing, and we have to come, and then that's where, evil doesn't want us to. Evil likes us small, and so when we step out and do new, bigger things, we're going to come up against struggle and battle, and against our own shame and our own pain. And so it's fun to see, and you've actually had that experience. It's that I've walked through with you, and I can say that because you mentioned that last week. Moving out into that new space in your career and building your business the way that you want it. It's you some of those old fears and old patterns and old shame, and that filter comes back, and you really have to take a look at that stuff. And it's fun to be able to walk through that with people who are moving out into a bigger space, and to help them get free from those little nagging things that hold them back, and to see them just break free. and create what they want in their life and do things that they never thought that they could do.
And step out and live large.
And step out and live large. Absolutely.
All right.
Playing big.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was fun.
And you know what I forgot to mention is make sure that if you are watching and you want access to the worksheet,
Send us a message.
It's yes, or actually on the bottom of the blog too this week we have a sign up form where you can just put in your email, and the downloadable version of the worksheet, the personal worksheet that goes along with this playing big or playing small discussion will come right to your inbox. So make sure you check that out, and if you want more to work on and more interpersonal work associated with this, that's a good resource, good tool for you.
Or if you're good at vacuuming.
Or if you're good.
So I'm going to step on out and step up, and I'm going to turn
might
the video
just
off
have
now.
you vacuum.
Yeah,
before
probably
you
will.
leave.
So anyway, well, thanks folks for joining us, and
Thank
we
you.
will see you back again next week.
All right. Thank you guys.